Oh, you damn right. Let's go House Divided on a Monday. Starting a brand new week. New scheduling is out there.
New Jeff Ketchum? No, not
that's right. This is him right here. You didn't know? Well, plastic surgery for the last few weeks to get it done. Jeff Ketchum taking a couple days off, believe it or not, to start the week. He's going to be back on Wednesday when practice starts. I'm Chad Hastings, and that guy is Jason Sukumel, managing editor of orangebloods.com, and a man who just got back from vacation. So before we do anything else, Jason Sukumel, are you tanned, rested, and ready for football season?
As tan as I get, yes. Rested, that's debatable. Ready for football season? Absolutely. My family and I took a trip to Mexico down to Playa del Carmen, Chad. It was me, my wife, our 4 kids. My daughter brought a friend. So we had 5 kids, and then my son's friend stayed in our condo. So we had 6 kids. There were 3 other families, 4 families total. We had 6 kids, 8 of us in our 3-bedroom condo. But you know what? It went up pretty well, man. Everybody got along. Nobody died. We all made it home safely.
Nobody died. That's a good thing.
Sometimes, hey, these family trips, sometimes I wonder if my kids are going to make it through, and it might be my hands that puts an end to them, because they drive me crazy sometimes.
Yeah, I could sense you were a little concerned that maybe there was going to be too many kids involved in this vacation, but it was good.
Yeah, it was as good as you could expect. I think no real hiccups, man. So
there we go. And our man Money B is in the building. We appreciate you, Money B. Good to see you. Somebody say, ready for what? Something happening? Yes, text guys, something's happening. Practice begins this week. By the end of this week, it's not just the thought process. It's not just some thought experiment. There will be actual practice reps, and there'll be pictures, and there'll be discussions, and there'll be reps to discuss.
Right at almost 48 hours, well, about 50 hours, because it's 2:45 on Wednesday. So it's going to be here before we know it. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's what's going on, text guy. That's why we put "Are you ready?" In the title today. And yes, Money B, Mr. Sukumel is back from his vacation, ready to go. And I don't know if Jason has hit the like button yet. But all of you should. Make sure you're liking and subscribing and getting your notifications for Orange Bloods Live. Jason, I know before we're done today, I wanted to have you on today because I definitely want to get a recap on kind of pool party stuff with recruiting and get your thoughts on Sharma, the latest commitment in the 25 class. But I also want to talk to you about practice. You've had this time off now, kind of decompress, and now you're getting it ramped back up. You'll be a part of the Orange Bloods crew that'll get to see a couple practice windows this week. We're hearing 3 of them, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And for the people that haven't seen them yet, Jason's pictures have become pretty legendary from some of these practice windows. I'm hoping you get more of them, Jason, because I know I'm a big fan of the pictures. It kind of gets you ready for the season. Let me start just right there with you in terms of what you're most excited to check out in the window. You've done this plenty. You know what you get to see. What is it that you're looking forward to the most on Wednesday?
Well, it's an interesting question, and people are going to think we choreographed this. We did not. But I'm writing my 3-2-1 column, Chad, that I'm going to post tonight on Orange Bloods. In my first topic, I'm looking at it right here on my other screen. The main things I'll be watching during fall camp are ... and I've got 9 things listed. So it's a perfectly timed.
There you go.
And we did not plan this out, people, I promise. But the first thing, and this is not in my notes, but just kind of generally speaking, I love going out there, and it's every year. Like, okay, this group's fired up. They're pumped up. So I just want to feel the energy, man. Just being out there on that grass, watching those guys. You kind of feel some electricity in the air. You want to see, okay, this guy's bulked up. Okay, this guy's slimmed down. Physically, how do they look? How do some of these freshmen, the guys who weren't here in the spring, which isn't a lot of them, most were, but hey, how do these freshmen look? Is Colin Simmons, is he looking even more comfortable than he did in the spring? We'll see. If I go down a list, Chad, and we can dive into these a little deeper, of course, but The first thing I put is the wide receiver rotation. Sark said it at SEC Media Days. He said, hey, we might have, or probably will have, a deeper rotation than we've seen in the past, right? They're going to play more receivers. It's something we've all thought for the past 6 months or so, because we're like, hey, going back to the spring, I remember talking to sources in the spring. It's like, they're not just throwing the ball to 3 or 4 guys like we've seen in the past. It is truly a rotation. Sark said as much at Media Day. So I want to see what happens there. Does 1 or 2 guys rise to the top, the cream of the crop? I don't know. We'll see. Is it going to be Isaiah Bond? You got to think, even though they're going to play a deeper pool of receivers, Chad, I still think, right, there's going to be 1 or 2 guys are going to be your alphas. Okay. I mean, that's kind of how things work out. I don't know who that's going to be. I mean, I get Ryan Wingo, a whole separate topic. Can he carry on this momentum that he built in the spring? I don't know, but I'm really curious to see the receiver rotation, the interior defensive line. I know you got Vernon Broughton, you got Alfred Collins. You're bringing in a lot of these transfers. That's still a concerning group for me. Okay. Are those guys, those are decent players. Alfred Collins, I think, is going to be an NFL player, but can he truly take that next step in his development, in his productivity? We'll see. We'll get our first look on Wednesday. This is an easy one, man, but I got Arch Manning on there. I know it. He came out of the spring game, right? We could talk the whole hour about Arch Manning, and everybody saw him throw for 350 yards or whatever it was. And, everybody, I said it's unrealistic and unfair to Arch. He's going to have bad days at practice. Okay, we're going to talk to sources at practice and say, yeah, Arch had an off day. And then the next day it's going to be, oh, my goodness, he was the top quarterback out there. But he's still young, guys. I mean, he still is very inexperienced. Can he put together a fall camp where he is consistent and just continues to develop? I'm not saying he's going to push Quinn Ewers, but put himself in a position where if Quinn has to miss some time, which is very possible based on his track record, that this offense doesn't really skip a beat. I've got 4 or 5 others, including the punter. I got 4 or 5 others we can talk about, but those are a few of the main things I'm curious to see, not just on Wednesday, but just over the course of fall camp, kind of see how some of these things take form and take shape over the next few weeks.
That's interesting stuff. If you want to throw it on the chat, you can answer the question too. The things you're looking forward to seeing or hearing about at practice when Jason and Anwar and Alex and the Orange Bloods crew and Sonny go out there to check out a little bit of a practice window and what they're looking at, the questions they'll be asking of the coaches. Tomorrow, things kind of get started with the coordinators. There's one time they allow the coordinators to talk to the media, and then things shut down on that front. So Coach Flood, the technical offensive coordinator, even though we know Sark's calling plays, Coach Flood, Coach Kwiatkowski, and Coach Banks. Happy wedding to Coach Banks, now married man. They are going to be available, and Anwar is going to be a part of that tomorrow to get some info from them, and then we get to practice stuff. So if you want to throw in, you can do it. Jefferson's just got to owe you damn right. Yes, Jefferson, exactly. It is that
guy says,
deal.
You looked it up. Arch cannot have a bad day. Yeah, I know Tex guy's saying it tongue in cheek, but listen, the first day we report, Arch had a bad day. He threw a couple interceptions. He threw a pick 6. Oh boy, let the meltdowns on Orange Bloods begin.
Well, Jason, it's interesting you brought that up, and you hit a couple things that I think are really important, but I'll start with your third one there with Arch. The reality is, we said this in spring. This was the first spring where he's the backup. This is the first spring game where he's the backup. He's one play away. You can always say, like, whoever the current vice president, you can always say they're one breath away, and that's true, but we haven't thankfully seen that live its way out a lot. But with backup quarterback, to say you're one play away, it's extremely realistic in this version of college football. It is also realistic with this particular starting quarterback and his history, because Quinn has missed some time. So I think it's absolutely a part of the discussion of how does he carry himself now that you'll go into that Colorado State game, and whether it's you're blowing them out like you'd hope to do, or it's, hey, Quinn's helmet pops off and he's got to come off the field.
Keep his helmet on the sidelines, because they might need him to race in at any time, right?
Yeah, just little stuff can happen now. Arch is now officially that next guy. So that's going to be interesting to watch. And yes, Mark,
and listen,
yes, we're talking about practice, because that's all we've got, Mark. We're building our way towards it. We're 33 days till kick. but practice does get started. This is when it all gets real, and it doesn't feel like we're just theorizing anymore. So yes, Mark, we're talking about practice.
And I don't want to turn this into an hour-long discussion, but I mean, listen, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not predicting it. It would be a surprise to me if it happened, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I'm going to knock on wood and hope it doesn't happen. But if Quinn Ewers gets dinged up and misses a game or 2 games, if Arch comes in and just blows the doors off, then that's a whole other conversation about how the rest of the season unfolds. So now, Arch being ready, it's imperative, and it's a critical storyline on several levels.
Jason, you're not saying that Texas fans might decide at some point the backup quarterback is the better of the. You're not saying that would ever happen.
Quinn throws. The first time we report that Quinn had a bad day at practice, or maybe he missed a couple throws, or somebody made a great play and jumped a route, and Manny Muhammad picked him off. Yeah, then it's going to put in Arch. Absolutely, Chad. That'll happen day one, probably.
It does happen. That does happen. If you want to throw in something else that happens, that Specs chat builds up. If you want to throw in something, if you want to get us a super chat, go ahead and throw something in the tip jar, and we will definitely get to that. Let's let you hear from Specs. You came out of the weekend. Maybe you were partying maybe you were like Jason, but you weren't off in beautiful Mexico drinking those drinks they were making for you. Maybe you drank all your own drinks over the weekend. Get stocked up at Specs. Here you go.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Yes, indeed. Also, a quick reminder, this afternoon, I should say this evening, maybe at 6:00, Football with Friends is back. This is the beginning of your expanded Orange Bloods live schedule. There will be some stuff added to this. I'm going to let you know. But Football with Friends cranks up this evening at 6. Also, be looking for the Modcast. There's probably going to be, we're looking at like 1 modcast a week. We'll be letting you know about that. We'll be talking the recruiting hours not going away. That will be happening once a week. We think on Wednesdays, the Prize Pick show will be there. So carve out a lot of good time, including maybe a little bit at 10 a.m. in the middle of the week, but more details coming on that. But welcome back to Football with Friends today. Cody and Alex are going to be getting going today. It'll FWF. If you have not heard them breaking down football, nobody does it better. They'll talk lots of Longhorns, obviously, but also they love talking about how these guys transition to the next level. They both do a lot of good stuff for rosterwatch.com. So they're constantly looking at the transition points between college and the pros. So check them out. Football with Friends coming up this afternoon. As they will tell you, it is fun as hell. You got to check it out at 6:00. Okay, see this? Why there's no what are we doing, Jefferson? Given time, Trey Owens could be better than Quinn. It's the 29th of July. Come on. What is going on? What is going on? I'm just double checking the chat here, see if there was anything else. So, Jason, you also threw out the wide receivers. I don't think there's anything more important at all than that, because of the first 2 things you threw out. In my mind, I don't know that we find out the answer to that defensive line question until bullets fly.
Yeah. And that's always tricky because we've heard that before, like, hey, the offensive line is looking great. And then the defensive line, then in season you get around like, well, the offensive line was pretty average, but the defensive line just wasn't that good. So it's always tough to kind of balance out those types of, what you're hearing from different people. But yeah, I agree with you, Chad, not to cut you off. I'm sorry. But in fact, we probably won't know until they go up to Ann Arbor, what this defensive line is going to.
Yeah. But unless they're faking us out, Jason, when you guys get to see that, whatever window they get to show you, if that window involves quarterbacks and receivers, what they send out there matters.
Yeah.
What they show you matters. What a 1 rep looks like does matter, and I am fascinated by it. I'm in the Jonte Cook fan club. I want to know where he fits in.
Me too.
But I am also a firm believer that there's no way you're going to keep Silas Bolden out of this discussion.
Reading my mind. You're
Right?
reading my mind. Yeah, like
Those
how
are-
does he fit in? I don't know, but he's going to fit in somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those two guys are undeniable, and I think Bond might be the third one. So in my mind, those would be the three that I would expect to see. But you've already mentioned the name, Jason. There is one of the things we all have to pay attention to is just how serious is this Ryan Wingo thing?
Well, Sark mentioned him at media days again, like he unsolicited. He brought up Ryan Wingo and said, "Hey, we think he's pretty good." And for him to say that about a true freshman is it's just kind of reading between the lines there. That's pretty telling. I mean, listen, he's a big kid. He's got tall kid. He's got verified track times. I forget what he ran, but I don't have it in front of me. It was 100 meter. I mean, legit verified track times, elite speed. This is a guy, Chad, who playing in Missouri didn't really ever have a receivers coach. He's getting his true first, and I wrote about this in my column. This is his first hands-on, almost round the clock training to really maximize his talent. So you talk to people close to Ryan Wingo, they're like, we're not surprised what he's doing so early, because you see he's a raw piece of clay, but they know he's a raw piece of clay. I don't want to say he's underdeveloped, because that's not fair. He had a wide receiver trainer and some of those things, but he didn't have the kind of training maybe guys in the state of Texas get, like a Jonte Cook and some of these other high profile guys, Micah Hudson and DeCorian Moore, and those guys that just do it year round. Ryan Wingo's never really had that. So he's starting to get it now in Austin, and we're seeing already he's made a big impression. So his ceiling, man, I mean, just look at the physical attributes he brings to the table. And now he's starting to kind of fine tune and polish in some of these the smaller elements of his game. So I think he's going to be tough to keep off the field.
Yeah, those four guys may be the start of the focus, but then DeAndre Moore and Matthew Golden and Ryan Niblett also got named by name. That group of 7 was mentioned in Dallas at SEC Media Day. So we'll start to see that. That's where my attention is going to go starting on Wednesday. When you guys get to get eyeballs on practice, I want to know where that starts, because the great thing Sark's got here, Jason, is I keep hearing this discussion about, well, so-and-so could be in the slot. And you think about it, you go, well, yeah, he could, but he can also do other things. I've heard the discussion of, well, Silas Bolden could lock down the slot. It's like, well, he didn't play slot at Oregon State. He was a badass outside receiver. Mm-hmm. Well, if that's true, then isn't that kind of what Jonte Cook and Ryan Wingo are? Yeah, kind of. Well, what about Bond? Well, Bond played a lot in the slot at Bama. There's a lot of, I think, moving around that you can do. If Sark and Milwee and Flood and however they all put it together, man, if they're ready to be modular, Jason, like truly badass football modular, and they can keep up with it, they got a chance to really interchange some big time receiving talent here.
And I can't wait to see, Sark's going to have some tricks up his sleeves, right? In fact, kind of getting off topic, Michael Terry, the athlete out of San Antonio that visited Texas last week, they talked to him and they're like, kind of some of the things you're talking about, Chad, like, you're such a versatile athlete, Michael Terry. You can do all these different things. Well, kind of what you're saying with these guys too. And we can do these things with you where we've done it with other receivers, but one guy was good at something. This guy was good at something. This guy was good at something else. So we'd have to pull them off. But hey, Michael Terry, you can do all of those things. So we're going to drive defenses crazy because they're not going to know what version of your talents is going to hit them. Kind of the same with some of these guys they've got on campus now. I mean, I understand why people say Silas Bolden out of the slot. Listen, he's cat quick. He's a smaller guy and he's super quick and he works well in space. But like you said, he did most of his damage on the outside. I'm really fascinated to see how they're going to line these guys up. How multiple are they going to be? What kind of creative, how deep into his bag of tricks is Sark going to go? And the good news is we'll have Alex Dunlap to sit there and break down every single rep. He will tell you who was where on every single play and what percentage. So I'll watch it from a distance. Alex will roll his sleeves up and he will tell you all of that stuff in detail every single week. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Going to be good. We got a super chat we're going to get to. Go ahead and pile on into the chat as well. Heading up towards 300 folks in there right now. Let me also thank one of our great partners around here, and that is Sinus and Snoring Specialist. Maybe nothing more important than the partner of ours that's helping me sleep better. And they've been doing it since 2017 for me. For a lot of you, you know that spot when you start. You kind of don't forget when you're starting to get good sleep when you weren't before. That's what Sinus and Snoring Specialist can do for you. All those allergy issues you've had, sinus headaches, snoring, sleep apnea, all that kind of stuff. If you're keeping yourself up all night, if someone that's into bed with you is, they're the one that's snoring and creating all those problems, Sinus and Snoring Specialists can solve the problems. Over 20 years of experience with Dr. Slaughter and his crew. I tell you all the time, surgical and non-surgical options that other places don't have. Go on in there. They'll tell you about all the different options that are out there. You've heard about Inspire. Go ask about that. You've heard about CPAP. Go ask about that. If you've heard about taping your mouth shut, I will tell you, don't do that. Go talk to Sinus and Snoring Specialists about doing it the right way. 601-0303, or just go to sinussnoringent.com. Sinus and Snoring Specialists feel clear, rested, and healthy. And thanks to them.
Can I say something before we get into the super chat?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Slaughter came up in Mexico on my vacation.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm going to give you, I know this is random, I know, but so we had 4 girls, my 3 daughters and my daughter's friend were in one room with 2 bunk beds, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first night, my youngest daughter, who's like beanpole skinny, the other girls basically kicked her out of the room because she was snoring so badly. So she ended up sleeping the whole week on the couch in the living room. And I saw her, she was sleeping, but her mouth was wide open. I told my wife, I was like, we might have to book an appointment with Dr. Slaughter for Quinn, our youngest. So I need to scan that code and get my daughter Quinn in to see Dr. Slaughter, because that girl's, if she's 13, and she's already got a snoring problem, I was like, all right, she's probably going to need some help here pretty soon. So
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I always talk about trips are one of those times where you'll find that stuff out. You're on vacation, you're in a different bed, you're in a different sleeping situation. Sometimes you find those out. Shout out to Sinus and Snoring Specialists. I'm glad they got mentioned. Actually,
down in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. We were talking about Dr. Slaughter. Yeah.
In a way, I'm not glad they got mentioned, but in a way I am, because it's a good way to to know if somebody needs that help. Sinus and Snoring doing great work there. All right, so the super chat that I mentioned is from Jay, one of our great chatters and fans. Thank you, Jay, for $5. I'm not worried about interior D-line. My concern is linebacker, especially if Hill went down. Then QB/wide receiver chemistry. We didn't exactly start hot last year. I think I would kind of agree with all that. Jason, what are your thoughts on linebacker?
Yeah, couldn't agree more with Jay as usual. I did not include linebacker in my write-up, and I probably should. I have 9. I probably should have included linebacker to push it to an even 10. But he's right. Like, if Anthony Hill goes down, and they've got some young linebackers, that big class they brought in a couple of years ago, but none of those dudes have experience. Is Leongo Lafau, is he ready? They've got a couple upperclassmen. You got Anthony Hill. Hill's really the only proven commodity. I think David Benda is going to be a pretty good player for Texas this year, but I agree with Jay. Linebacker is a bit worrisome, especially if Anthony Hill goes down. That could be borderline catastrophic. Yeah. And I also agree with him about the quarterback wide receiver chemistry. I mean, you're bringing in all these new faces and these new bodies, and timing is going to be different. They've had all spring. They've had the offseason. I thought in the spring, sometimes that chemistry and the timing between Quinn and his receivers, based on people I talked to, maybe it was a little off at times. Okay, well, they've had a full spring offseason. So I do agree with Jay that I'm curious to see, and we'll be relying on a lot of sourcing for this type of stuff, but I'm curious to see and hear if that chemistry is a little bit, clicking a little bit more naturally, if they're a little bit more in sync. So I think those are all legitimate points he's bringing up.
Jason, as somebody brought up that, the receiver quarterback chemistry. So I'm looking up right now, and I had asked myself this question, but had not found the answer. I'm looking up the total number of touchdowns that Quinn Ewers has thrown to receivers on this team, and I think it is none. I'm just double checking this number because he's got, Sanders, Mitchell, Worthy, Whittington. Yeah. Other than that,
I don't think, I mean, because Jonte didn't have one, right? DeAndre Moore didn't. Niblet,
Right.
no. I mean, I don't know who it would be.
So, yeah, Helm had 2, Blue had 1. So you got to go to a tight end and a running back. Baxter did not have a touchdown catch. So, yeah, in terms of receivers, I've always mentioned the number 8. 8 is the most catches anybody has from Quinn, and that's Jonte Cook. So you got to develop all of that stuff in terms of just catches, but in terms of touchdown, he has not thrown a touchdown to any of these guys yet. They've just got to develop that. Jay, it's a great point. And like you said, maybe things didn't start red hot last year. You're having to develop that. But Jason, that's also, if you think about it, that's really speaking to the experience with Quinn. It's sort of like what would you rather have? Would you rather have a bunch of badass wide receivers and you're replacing the quarterback? Or would you rather have your badass quarterback and you're replacing the wide receivers? Texas obviously has the latter here, but that should be a level of trust and a level of foundation. If Quinn is making all the steps that they say he is making, Texas fans should be pretty confident in that, right? That he can bring these receivers along. He'll be the anchor of that passing game.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes will tell you, hey, receivers don't matter. Just give me whoever, and I'm going to go out there and win the Super Bowl, right? So, and listen, I mean, yes, they are replacing some truly elite receivers or losing so much productivity, but they're not replacing them with scrubs. I mean, these guys are accomplished receivers. They're very talented. A couple of them are very young, of course. We mentioned Wingo, Jonte, but these guys have done it at a high level. Bond and Bolden and Golden. always get hung up on those 3 names, but they've done it at a high level. So I think they'll be just fine. I mean, sometimes it's kind of like when I go to these All-American games, okay, these All-American Bowls, and everybody judges these receivers pretty harshly or these quarterbacks. I'm like, guys, they've had like 3 practices together, right? And they're learning a playbook. Like their timing is going to be off. So, I think they'll be fine. I mean, they've had, like I said, all spring, all summer. They'll have all of fall camp. So I think the timing and chemistry will be fine. But yeah, anytime you're totally overhauling your receiver room, even with an experienced quarterback, it's going to take a little bit of time. But you're right. There is some comfort for Texas fans knowing, hey, we've got an experienced, high caliber quarterback. So I think it'll be just fine. So,
couple other comments somebody threw in the chat on the defensive side. Gabe said, I want to see what kind of impact Trey Moore has. Gabe, that's a good call too. That's a guy, Jason, I think Texas fans, even if they don't know they're going to love him, I think they're going to love that guy. I think he's going to be an impactful player this year.
Dude, I'm glad I was going to specifically ask you to pull that comment up in chat. Again, I think you're reading my mind today. This is on my things that I'm watching. One of them is Trey Moore, not the edges, not Colin Simmons. Yes, I'll be interested in that too. But I literally said, hey, Trey Moore, he set the UTSA record for sacks last year and the year before, I think, for tackles for loss. And I'm going to just read my write-up, what I said. I said, even before he committed to Texas, there was something about this guy that had me feeling like he'd be a stud for wherever he wound up committing. I know the level of competition at UTSA isn't anything like what he'll see at Texas, but production is production, and this dude put up numbers. He's earned strong reviews since he's arrived at Texas. Now it's time to see if he can put it all together. I'm with you, Chad. I think he will. I think Trey Moore is going to be a very productive and a fan favorite maybe by the time this season's over. I think he's going to be a really good player for that defense.
And also for Uncle Mickey here. Uncle Mickey, I love this idea. I don't know how much we see it, but Uncle Mickey says, hey, you got that many talented receivers. Let's go 5 wide. I don't think, Jason, we see that a ton, but it will be interesting to sort of note and keep track. And you mentioned, the great work Alex Dunlap does for Orange Bloods, keeping up with every snap for all these different angles and stuff. But how many times would we see, heck, I'll go 4 and 5, not just 5 wides. Mm-hmm. How many times is Sark going to go away from, he loves to have that tight end on the field.
Sometimes multiple, yeah.
Right. He wants a tight end and a running back out there if he can absolutely have it, and then get you a 3 wide receiver set. How many times do we see 4 or 5 wides during the season? That's a number to keep up with, I think, this year.
It might be a lot higher than we've seen in the past, right? I mean, you don't have Jatavian Sanders. I mean, Gunnar Helms, I think, probably going to be a Sunday player. He's a good player. Amari Niblack's coming in. I mean, he's going to be a weapon. So it's a really fascinating question, Uncle Mickey. Don't know the answer, but yeah, you're darn right. That's something we'll all be watching closely to see, again, how deep in his bag of tricks does Sark go? Is he going to change up his philosophy completely? I don't think so. But, if those wide receivers are your best players, then he'll want to find a way to get as many of them as possible on the field.
Uncle Mickey, thank you for the chat. If you want to throw us a super chat, it'll go right to the top. Jason Sukumel sitting in for Jeff Ketchum today. Ketch will be back on Wednesday, first day of practice, and Ketch will be back in, and we'll get after it there. Again, a reminder, Jason and myself will have a recruiting hour for you on Wednesday, which will be that first day of practice. 10 a.m. is when we'll go. Like, subscribe, and get your notifications. Then you'll be notified when these shows start, and we get new shows for you and all that good stuff. Jason, let's talk a little recruiting. While you were gone, getting rested up, and let's face it, you are also doing some work at the same time. And I know the Orange Bloods crew appreciates your hard work. But let's talk about Sharma, and then we'll go to pool party. Josiah Sharma, we talked about him on some recruiting hours, I know, from time to time. Young man out of California. All of the sudden, I guess, is that the way to say it, that he shows up at the pool party, and then not only does that, but he flips a commitment from Oregon to Texas. Walk me through kind of how you experienced the whole Sharma thing.
Truthfully, let's see. I was at the Cancun airport, and I had to confirm with someone that Sharma was in Austin. And then, true story, Chad, we landed in Austin, and I'm like, hey, we're like 15 minutes early. Sweet. But we pull up to our gate. They're like, hey, sorry, there's some British airline. We had to basically sit on the plane for an hour before we could deboard. Well, that's when it just happened to be on my phone, of course. What else are you going to do, right? And Sharma commits to Texas while I'm sitting there on the tarmac or whatever. I guess not the tarmac, but so that's how that went down on Thursday. It's an interesting deal because when he was originally being recruited, he took his official visit to Texas with his mom. His mom loved Texas. There was a lot of thought. I had a commitment story written for him to commit to Texas. And I don't do that, Chad, unless I'm pretty confident it's going to happen. And I honestly, I'm probably wrong on this, but I could probably count on one hand, maybe 6 or 7 fingers, times when I've pre-written a commitment story and then not had to use it. Well, Josiah Sharma was one of those times. He ends up committing to Oregon at the last minute. Kind of caught me by surprise. Literally the day of his commitment, there was a lot of Oregon smoke, and everybody's like, whoa, this thing took a weird turn. We actually had a commitment graphic built and ready for him. Tyler, our graphics guy, did from back in June when he committed to Oregon. But, he came in for that visit, and just what we've heard is, obviously NIL is going to play a part of it. Let's not act like it's not. But I think his mom really favored Texas all along. I think Josiah Sharma always liked Texas a lot. I think just getting him back on campus, showing him that love with his mom was enough. And he made a pretty quick switch. He came in, visited, and it was later that afternoon or early evening, I guess, when he announced his decision to flip his commitment to Texas. So that's a big, big pickup for Texas. He's a really good player. He's a Rivals 250 defensive tackle. Let me see where we got him ranked exactly. Number 203 nationally. He's out of California. I think he's a guy that still has a lot of upside and a lot of potential. So I think his best days of football are still ahead of him. He's played offensive line in the past. He's still fairly new to defensive tackle, but that's a big need for position for Texas. And there's just not a lot of options on the board. So to get him to come in, flip his commitment. This is a guy that Alabama really wanted, Washington, obviously Oregon, Texas. He had a big time offer sheet, a lot of schools after him. So that was a really, really big pickup for Texas, just in terms of being a good player. But it even magnifies the importance when you figure, hey, he's a defensive tackle, an interior defensive line, a true interior defensive lineman. Texas needs those types of guys, probably need more than just him. So they're still hunting for some others.
Yeah, and Jason, it's a hard thing to find. We've talked about that. D-tackle talent's hard to find anyway. And I know we always talk about the delineation between a 4-star and then getting up into that super blue chip area that I know you and Ketch and others believe in, where it's a high 4-star into a 5-star. I know he's maybe he's a little below that boundary line, but I'm watching that video and I'm like, this guy's, I see it looked fairly unique. It looked like a lot of talent. For you, is this a guy where you look at him as that a true impact could be there? This could be an impact player at D-tackle, or is this one of those guys you look at as you need this guy for numbers more than anything else, and then you just kind of see where he ends up?
No, I think he's got an opportunity to be a true impact player. I see Vivek in the chat said Sean Rogers comparison. I don't know if I'm going to go. I mean, Sean Rogers is a freakish dude. And
I was going to say, we can't do this with every D tackle, can we? We can't have
no. And
we can't go that far.
Like, we have him at Rivals at 6'6", 300. I need to check on that because I've seen other places he's been listed like 330. Josiah doesn't do a lot of interviews, so it's hard to get a lot like at all. In fact, I've been trying to get him since he committed, but he doesn't talk a whole lot. So, I need to kind of dig around on some of those specific details. But to answer your question, yeah, I think he absolutely has a chance to be a true impact player. I mean, this is a guy who he's higher rated, so that would tell you what more highly sought after, if you will, than the two defensive tackles that just left Texas that are in the NFL, right? So, can he maximize his potential the way those guys did? T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, we'll see. That's a ways down the road. Like I said, I do think, though, I don't know that he's a guy that's going to come in year one. And Texas is losing a lot of D tackles, all these transfer guys. So he could, it's possible, but I think he's maybe a guy that's going to need a year or two. But in terms of long-term impact, yeah, I think he could be a Sunday player. But again, there's a lot of development that has to go into that.
So in terms of the whole class, Jason, the 25 class, I think it's up to 16 now is the number, if I'm not mistaken. They've added three 4-stars and these last three guys. I see that, like, again, team ranking wise, which ultimately doesn't matter, but to let everybody know, it's now into the top 20 and, kind of working its way up. We've been talking about the Sark way of doing things, the fact that they do have patience. He's all about check with me in November. Let's see how it looks in December. For you, now that with these last three guys ending with Sharma, do you feel like there's a momentum now being set up, and you feel a little momentum Texas's way in terms of what could be about to happen when we get into August, and then obviously stuff that could happen in the season?
Yes and no. Sharma's a big pickup. I think Nick Townsend, I think it was Vivek that asked me a few weeks ago. I mean, I like Nick Townsend as the best tight end in the state. I do. And I know I'm not just saying that because he committed to Texas. I know Keati Armstrong's a fantastic player, but I love Nick Townsend's athleticism and size. So that's a big pickup, Chad. But is this building momentum? I don't really think that necessarily. I don't think these last couple of commitments are going to get other recruits to look and say, hey, look what's going on at Texas. Maybe I need to join. Now, again, reading my mind, in my 3-2-1, I'm writing about, and I haven't written this section yet, but like August could be, I hate to say a make or break month for Texas, because you're right. Sark's like, hey, I don't really get too worried about recruiting. We'll see what it looks like in November and December. But this month of August is huge. You got Khalil Lockett next week on the 7th, and then Fasusi the 21st, Jonah Williams the 24th, Jamie French the 30th. So that's a number of 5-star players fixing to come off the board in the month of August. So now that, like I said, I don't want to say it's going to make or break UT's class, but we could, coming out of August, we may look at this and say, hey, Texas gets 3 of those guys, 4 of those dudes. Hey, this is shaping up to be a top 3 class. If Texas whiffs on most of those guys, and we're like, okay, this is a little bit alarming. Now let's see what happens in the fall. But I think if they're going to build some momentum, it's going to start beginning next week with Khalil Lockett. We'll see what he does, and then it can certainly build off of that.
All right. So the class again sitting there with 16 on the commitment list, and Sharma being the last one. Jason, anything coming out of the pool party for you? I thought you guys accurately reported going in that you didn't expect a ton of fireworks with this pool party sequence. But what came out of it for you? Obviously, the Sharma was a part of it. Outside of that, what do you take away from the pool party?
Smaller group than we've seen in the past, but Michael Terry was there, and I haven't talked to Michael. He ended up going to Oregon. I think maybe he's at Nebraska right now, but I talked to people who spent time with him, and they came out of that weekend feeling really, really good about Texas's chances. Now, you're always a little bit leery when he still has that Oregon visit. Nebraska, I think that's just window dressing. I don't think Nebraska is a big factor, but I'll be curious to see. I'm going to try to follow up with Mike when he gets back home from Nebraska to see if that positive vibe that Texas felt is still there after the Oregon visit. But people I talked to said Texas did a great job with Michael Terry. I kind of mentioned it early. He got like seriously almost an hour with Sark, him and his family did, and just said, hey, and one person said, man, Sark is a master communicator, is the way it was described to me. Really broke down to Michael Terry even more thoroughly than he got on his official visit. Hey, here's how we would use you. Here's some things we could do with you. We don't have to take you off the field ever, but people won't know how we're going to attack with you on the field. So I think that really resonated with Michael Terry. I feel really good about Texas's chances there. Jonah Williams is the interesting one, right? We knew he was coming in. Well, I've kind of just felt like, okay, maybe it's just a courtesy visit. He didn't take an official visit. Coming out of that weekend, there's some thought, or that week, I guess, that visit was on Thursday, that Texas may be running, I'm going to say co-leaders. One person said probably second to me behind LSU. And he was supposed to visit LSU last weekend. He did not. Okay, so Texas got him. That's going to be the last crack unless he goes somewhere in the next couple of days, because dead period starts August 1st. So he's going to decide late August. And man, I mean, Texas made a really strong case. He did FaceTime with Schlossnagel and the baseball coaches while he was in town for this football visit. I think that's helping Texas's chances. I'm not predicting Texas in this race. I still keep hearing a little more LSU buzz. But one person I talked to said, LSU doesn't know. Nobody really knows. Good luck figuring out what he's going to do. People thought he was a lock for Oklahoma at one point. And then Oregon was getting all the future casts or crystal balls and whatever these things are. Then it was A&M, and now it's Texas buzz and LSU. So it's been all over the place, but I do feel confident, Chad, in saying Texas did a really good job there with Jonah Williams. So the Sharma thing was big, but yeah, a couple of big uncommitted guys coming in, and I think Texas really helped themselves with both those guys. And I'll have updates. I talked to a lot of these guys. I'll have updates in my 3-2-1. Every single person I talked to said the thing that really stood out to them was their player-led practice. They all went and watched the Texas team practice before they went to the pool party. Again, player-led practice. But they said, hey, the intensity that those guys showed, the work ethic, just their desire to be great, you could just see it even in this player-led practice. So that really stood out. And, if you're a Texas fan, that should give you warm fuzzies. That's what you want to hear about an off-season workout.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, interesting that Jonah Williams, we hadn't really had like a top 3 or 5 or whatever, and then Texas is in the top 3, and then you mentioned not taking the trip, the visit to LSU and getting that visit. Now the Longhorns just need to get an official visit on the books.
Yeah, but it'd have to be after he commits, and I mean, it could happen. It very well could happen. Obviously, if he commits to Texas, it'll for sure happen. And this is not pool party related, but it's worth mentioning. Jamie French, the receiver, probable 5-star receiver out of Florida, he had told us a while back he would probably visit Texas in late July. Didn't happen. He went to LSU in Miami. He told another Rivals reporter LSU and Miami are now his top 2 ahead of his commitment. Yeah, those are words straight out of his mouth. So is that a little gamesmanship? Possibly. Jamie's a smart kid. He knows how to drum up suspense, but those are not exactly the kind of words and the kind of update you want to hear if you're a Texas fan.
Yeah. All right. Interesting stuff there. Keep an eye on all of that. And like we said, a recruiting hour coming up Wednesday at 10. Obviously, check out orangebloods.com for all the latest stuff. Jason's got a roll here at about 50 after. So we're going to get a little buy or sell squeezed in here, and it will have a little recruiting in as well. I'm just scanning the chat, make sure I'm not missing a super chat. Okay. If you want to throw in a super chat, I will get to that before the end of the show. Jason, I did not have time to get my buy or sell put into the system today, so we're just going to have to wing this. Are you ready?
Got my ears ready. Let's do it.
Here we go. It's all ears. Here we go. Buy or sell number 1. To reiterate, the first thing you will look for in practice on Wednesday is wide receiver rotation. Buy or sell?
That's going to be a buy. A, because I'm interested in it. B, it's one of the easier things to spot, like the kind of those practice windows we get to see. We don't get to watch a lot of team drills where it's 11 on 11, but even the early drills where it's just routes on air, there is always a pecking order, right? And it's always the top guys taking the first reps with Quinn and then Arch. So, that's going to be one of the things, probably the first things I'll be looking for on Wednesday afternoon when I go out there to see which receivers, who are the first 2 guys that line up. right? And then who's after them, and so on and so forth. Because after a while, you get down to kind of the walk-on quarterbacks and the walk-on receivers, but they always line those top guys up with the top quarterback. So absolutely, I'll be paying close attention to that, and it'll probably be the first thing I'll notice.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, buy or sell number 2. It is Dak Prescott's birthday today. Dak turns 31 years old. You think Dak Prescott at some point becomes the highest paid quarterback ever?
Man, these quarterback numbers that are getting thrown around are crazy. He's 31 today.
Yeah.
Oh man, Tom Brady kind of broke the mold, plays until you're 40. So, but 31 is getting older. Highest paid, I'm gonna sell that, Chad. But I don't have a great knowledge of that. Like technically, what Mahomes was worth, what's his 50-year contract or whatever it was, like 500 million. Tua just signed. Who's the other big one that just signed?
Yeah, Tua and
Lamar Jackson signed a while back. Tua
Lamar did. Love just signed a big one, didn't he?
Yes, he sure did. Jordan Love, Green Bay. So, highest paid, I'm going to probably sell that, but he's going to get paid. But he's 31. I mean, are you going to sign him for 7 years? Probably not. But they may give him 4 years. 200 million or whatever crazy number they come up with. So, I'm going to say sell though on highest paid, but he'll be in that ballpark.
Fair enough. By the way, Mark throws in, Jerry is dumb enough to do that. Thank you, Mark, for your added contribution today. All right, Jason, buy or sell number 3, back to Texas football and recruiting. You think Khalil Lockett says Texas, but you think Fasusi says OU?
I'm going to buy Khalil to Texas, but I'm telling you, that's not a slam dunk either. I mean, but I'm going to go at LSU, Alabama, some other schools there. I'm going to buy that just because – man, they missed on Decorian Moore. Jamie French is, on shaky ground here. So they cannot afford to miss on Khalil Lockett. So I'm just going to say to get him. Fasusi to Oklahoma. You know what, Chad? That one, I think every day you're going to get a different answer. Okay. From Fasusi or sources close to him. Oh man, Oklahoma was kind of his first love. Okay, when I first started talking to him, and a lot of times I am inclined to say, okay, guys usually come back to that first love because Oklahoma offered him. They're recruiting hardest, the earliest. Okay, but I also think he's a guy Texas cannot afford to miss.
Okay,
I say Texas doesn't usually miss on those types, so I'm going to sell Fasusi to Oklahoma. I'm going to stick. Cautiously with Fasusi somehow winding up in this Texas class, but Oklahoma is certainly a formidable opponent in that one.
Gotcha. All right, Jason, real quick, couple of weird birthdays for you. Buy or sell number 4, Lori Loughlin, the actress, is 60 years old as of yesterday. If you were a famous actor and had all the money in the world, you would try to pay for your kid to get into some school, and it might get you in trouble.
Lori Loughlin, that's one from Full House, right?
Yes.
The USC dilemma. Did she go to prison or her husband or something? Did they go?
She did. I think she's just spent a little time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say sell on that one, Chad. Hey, I'm a big believer in my kids got to figure some of this crap out on their own, and they've got to fall down and pick themselves up, and learn how to do that. And you've got to fail to succeed sometimes. So I'm going to sell that. I don't think I would. I don't think I would stoop that far.
All right, good man. And finally, today is Elizabeth Berkley's 50th birthday. That's Jesse from Saved by the Bell. So I'm gonna help you out here. 5 years after they graduate from Bayside, Jesse hotter than Kelly Kapowski.
Well, Kelly went through that phase where she blew up, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 years I don't care. I'm still Kelly Kapowski all the way.
You're going Kelly. 5 years after graduation. Okay.
Come on. I used to watch that show religiously when I was a kid because of Kelly Kapowski. But she did that show Showgirls, right? Elizabeth
that was Berkley, yes.
Yes. So that was pretty appealing too. But no, I'm going to go with the wholesomeness of Kelly Kapowski.
Okay, and real quick, Phil sneaks this one in, and I did see it, Phil. Buy or sell hotter music videos, Sharp Dressed Man with ZZ Top, or over Uptown Girl with Billy Joel and Christy Brinkley?
Man, I barely remember those. Those were going way back, but I would probably go Sharp Dressed Man with ZZ Top.
Yeah.
Christy Brinkley is one of those beautiful women in the history of the planet, right? But I'm going to go Sharp Dressed Man.
Yeah, the volume of women in Sharp
Mhm.
Dressed Man, I think maybe puts that over the top. Phil, thank you so much, and that was a super chat as well with a little $10 add-on. Phil was so excited. Thank you, Phil.
Those are fun super chats. I like
Yes,
that.
I like
Yeah,
those.
yes, about women chat. I can kill an hour of that. No problem. Dude.
Exactly. We can do that all day. I know you got to run, man. Thank you so much for it, and I will see you on Wednesday for a recruiting hour.
See you on Wednesday. I'll try to drum up some new recruiting info and some intel. Be shaking the bushes today and tomorrow, and yeah, I will see you 10 a.m. on Wednesday.
Very cool. All right, man. Be safe.
Yeah, thanks.
That is Jason Sukamel, and I appreciate his great work as always. And as long as we're mentioning it, thanks to Phil again for that super chat. You want to throw me a super chat? I will get it before the show is done. But let's go ahead and throw you a QR code as well. There's never a bad time to think about it. But if you have not gotten signed up with orangebloods.com, you're getting all that great content from Jason, from Anwar, from Catch, from Cody and Allie, the whole crew getting everything together as we're about to hit practice. It's 2 days away as we're recording this show today. Wednesday starts practice. You want the latest notes, all the latest thoughts, the things that are being said behind the scenes, those great pictures from practice, all that stuff is available at orangebloods.com. So get signed up for that today, but also we remind you to like and subscribe and get your notifications to us right here, Orange Bloods Live. That one is free. It does help us out, though. It helps us get a little closer to that raise we're trying to get Jeff Ketchum. We love your super chats. If you want to throw something in the tip jar, that's awesome. You find out about the new shows if you get your notifications as well. So we want to thank everybody for that. And I noticed, y'all know I'm seeing I see every little bit of progress. We're up to 19,600 plus fans for the Orange Bloods Live YouTube channel. Again, that is free to become a subscriber. Please jump on in there. It does help us out. And again, it gets Catch closer to that raise. We're trying to get him, because if he gets the raise, and maybe some of the rest of us do too. That's what we're hoping for. So we appreciate your support there. And we certainly appreciate Phil throwing in a crazy hotter than with the Sharp Dressed Man ZZ Top video. That's basically a good moniker in general. If you have hotter thans that you want to put a super chat on, it's definitely going to go right to the top of the list. No doubt about it. All right. Let me thank one of our great partners. And speaking of things you want to see, you definitely want to see the Sharp Dressed Man video and all the incredible people there. You want to see Uptown Girl with Christy Brinkley. You know what else you want to see? Beautiful bottles. That's what you want to see at the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. Maybe you don't have time right now for that long extended vacation like Jason Sukamel just went on, but you do have time for a mini vacation. You have time for a weekend getaway, and that's what Deep Eddy Vodka and that tasting room is all about. They want you to have a great time. They obviously want you to do it responsibly, but get your friends or family together. Head on out there. It is such a good time. The Crimson Creek Smokehouse Barbecue is right there on site, so you combo that up with those great cocktails you see in the upper right. Or maybe you want to sip on a flight of vodka. You can probably tell me all those flavors as you look at them right there. 8 different flavors. Maybe you pick yourself up a bottle of vodka while you're out there. We've done that plenty of times. There's your QR code to scan, and you see the hours. Thursdays and Fridays, 11 to 7. Saturday, 11 to 5. Sunday, 12 to 5. Always a good time at the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room, and they are whipping us up an Orange Bloods cocktail for this season. First one for Texas in the SEC. So we'll let you know when that one is available. And as I'm scanning through here, just making sure I'm not missing the any super chats. You know what? Just occasionally, this is nice. Rock Drums 11. How are you today, Chad? You know what? Drums, I'm doing all right today. I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. That's good. Occasionally, you're just checking in. I like it. We did have a couple other some chats that I marked here. Let me see. Phil, we got you there on the $10. I'll just flash it up again to show everybody that you wanted that enough, that you threw us $10. We appreciate it. Thanks to everybody for those super chats. We got that one taken care of. Vivek throwing in the idea that Fasusi is still the guy that will make or break the class. Vivek, that's a huge name. You're absolutely right. I think that would crush you Longhorn fans, understandably. Not only that you would not get him, but the idea that you would not get him and he might end up north of the Red River. that would not be what you want to hear. Fasusi's a badass. That's something to pay attention to. And that is August 21st, I believe. Do I have that right? I know I had him written down. There he is. Yep, August 21st. Look at that. I've memorized these things. Jason Sukamel has done his job. All right, a couple of the others here. This one on Quinn might be a bit of a hopeful wishing to imagine Quinn as an elite player next year. I think he was good last year, but not great. He had some excellent skill players with him. Vivek, it's a great thing to bring up. And based on what we talked about earlier, extra important for him to be consistent this year because there is no built-up consistency with any of these wideouts. Got a little bit with maybe helmet tight end. Got a little bit with those running backs, but that they're not primary pass catchers. They're going to catch some passes, but that's it. He has not thrown a touchdown to any of these wide receivers, and the most passes he's completed to any of them, it's technically 6. Remember that. The number is 8 for Jonte Cook, but Quinn threw 6 of those balls. The other 2 belong to Arch, if I am not mistaken. So just to be technical there, it is very, very important for Quinn to be solid because these guys are trying to come in and learn the offense and everything. Vivek, thank you for that. I do like this name again. I'll throw it up. Trey Moore will be unstoppable. I have a good feeling about him. Further review, I'm kind of with you there. I think it's one that Texas fans will appreciate. And Phil, you sent us this one earlier that Gunner doesn't count. I wouldn't go that far. Don't forget about Gunnar Helm. Just in peeking at the numbers, were they incredible numbers last year? Wouldn't go that far, but 14 catches, a 14-yard average. He did end up with a couple of touchdowns, and I don't think that's a guy to forget about because if you scheme it up right and you got a lot of options out there on a play and all of a sudden on like a, 3rd and 6, Gunnar Helm slips up the seam and he's all alone because the defense is trying to deal with that guy at receiver and that guy and those running backs or that running back. And all of a sudden Gunnar Helm's the guy. I think he's going to make some big plays this year. Keep an eye on that. Running backs and tight ends fascinate me in this offense because Sark is known for all the flashy stuff with the receivers, but at certain big moments, he will also find those other positions. He'll find a big running back moment and he will find a big tight end moment. And Helm is a guy, when you're talking about where does Quinn find comfort in the passing game, who's he thrown the ball? I just told you he threw 14 balls to that guy. That's 8 more than he's thrown to Jonte Cook, and it's 14 more than he's thrown to any of those transfers that are coming in. So it is definitely something to keep an eye on. I just saw somebody scanned a QR code. I appreciate you for that. We appreciate you. And again, Catch is going to be back on Wednesday, the first day of practice. So fall practice gets going officially on Wednesday, but make sure you're at orangebloods.com tomorrow on Tuesday. Anwar is going to be dealing with the old-fashioned show in the morning, as always. But then about 11:30, he'll be at this media event with all 3 coordinators that will speak separately. That will be interesting to see. What do you get out of Coach Flood, Coach Kwiatkowski, Coach Banks? That'll be kind of getting us primed for practice. And then, of course, there'll be stuff coming from Sark in addition to the windows of time that the guys get to see from practice. So you're going to want to be completely locked into that once we actually get to Wednesday. So we got all of that out on the schedule, some open parts of practice. Next week as well, they've said maybe a couple more practices with a little more viewing time. So I don't know if that's an SEC thing or is it maybe just Sark becoming more comfortable with the idea of, let's let the media, peek into more practice. We appreciate that, Sark. We really do appreciate that. All right, let's see. Uncle Mickey pointing out you still can't join with a non-U.S. address. We're working on it, Uncle Mickey. They're working on it. Stay on them. Please stay on them. Yes, and Phil, you're absolutely right. Gunnar doesn't count as a wide receiver who caught touchdowns. Like, no, not at all. You're absolutely right. You're just pointing out as a pass catcher, the guy he might be comfortable with. But you're right. Yeah, that certainly does not count as a wideout. We'll have to see kind of how they utilize him. All right, as we get ready to hit the top of the hour here, let me remind you of a couple things. That new schedule, it is expanding as we speak, but right now for today, it definitely does look like this for your Monday. Football with Friends is going to hit you at 6 o'clock this evening. You're going to get off work, chill out, maybe have a little dinner. Maybe you're getting dinner ready. Maybe you're getting the kids into their homework, or well, that's not homework yet, is it? Maybe you're getting the kids school supplies right now. And then Football with Friends will fire up with Alex and Cody tonight. So make sure that you check that out. Also, let's thank another one of our great partners around here. Before I close the door, don't forget about AV Consultations. 33 days away from kickoff. If you need a new screen, a bigger screen, a badass setup, check out all the stuff they can do for you. You may also want a video game. They got old school video games too. Check this out.
This is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations. Today's home electronics can be a bit daunting. My company has spent the last 36 years making sure they are not. For those of you who have not experienced our services yet, we'd like to invite you to give us a try for all your home electronics needs. We carry all the major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And we come to you. There's no need to leave your home to find great pricing and incomparable service. No traffic, inexperienced sales geeks, or pushy showroom tactics. We believe in having some fun and dreaming big. You have a dream for your home entertainment? Let us know. We can make it come true. And we are always there to help after the job is done. We cultivate clients for a lifetime by treating everyone like their family. No, not those family members. I'm talking about the ones you actually like. So relax, hug your kids, make love to your wife, and smile. Then, when you have a moment, give us a call at 255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Or online at avconsultations.com.
Yeah, seeing that Miss Pac-Man Gallagher machine makes me happy every time. Phil says, good job. Expect a super chat, buy or sell later this week. Oh, Phil, that sounds like a good idea. In fact, tomorrow, it'll be the last show before Catch comes back. I was trying to set up a co-host for tomorrow, but the guys are getting ready for practice, and Anwar's dealing with the media. So here's what we're going to do. For those of you that are here right at the end, tomorrow, lots of space for you. We're going to go heavy on the chats tomorrow. We'll definitely talk about practice, talk about the most important things in practice, talk about the stuff that we're looking forward to. I'll get some of your thoughts. We'll throw predictions out on the season and all that, but also we'll do Truth Serum Tuesday. How about that? We've done that before with Truth Serum Sark. Let's go Truth Serum. I'll have a little Truth Serum tomorrow. You ask me any question you want. You want to get into some weirdness? You want to know what I think of the OB guys? You want to know what, some radio thing from the past? You want to do that? That's good. You throw me a super chat with enough money in it, we'll get some weird voices to go on. How about that? You want a little Lou Holtz or Scottish guy or something? Let's go $20 a super chat, and that'll happen. We'll just do all that tomorrow. Jump on in. And yes, the idea of some super chat, buy or sells, we could do that for a whole show if you want to. So we'll do that tomorrow, kind of cleanse the palate before Wednesday when Catch comes back to where we start talking about practice. But don't worry, we'll have the very latest for you tomorrow. If there's anything to report from that media event that Anwar goes to, I'll be watching his social media to see what he sends out there from Banks and Flood and Kwiatkowski. But we'll talk some Longhorns for it. Longhorn fans, tomorrow, you will not have to worry. I will not squelch any of your energy. You can have just go pure positivity. Tell me that this team is going to go 12-0 with a bullet and then just go. I mean, it's going to be July 30th tomorrow. So you got plenty of time for realism. Tomorrow, we will go as crazy as you want to go. But in terms of me, we could throw some truth at me. If you want to know the truth from Sark, what do you want? What would you want to know? You want to know the truth from Quinn or Arch, whatever? We'll talk about that. Do a little truth serum on a Tuesday tomorrow. All right. So we hope you are having a good start to your week. We certainly will be glad when practice shows up on Wednesday. Again, like, subscribe, and get those notifications. 6:00 tonight is Football with Friends coming up tomorrow at 10. You got the return of the Modcast. And the Modcast has been there. What the plan moving forward is going to be once a week, Tuesday at 10. It's a time that seems to work for the guys. It's a time that seemed to work for you guys in the past. But even if it's not, you'll be able to rewatch throughout the week. But Tuesdays at 10, we're going to try to lock that in with the Modcast. Wednesdays at 10, the recruiting hour with Jason Sukamel and myself. And then Thursdays at 10, keep that carved out. Once we get closer to the season, that might be where your Prize Pick show ends up. Shout out to Prize Picks. I know a lot of you get into that. You know what, Phil? I don't know if we can ever plan on this. I don't know that I could go into a show on Orange Bloods Live and lay out a no sheep joke rule. I don't think that can happen. Some people need to process with a sheep joke. I'm not going to try to stop that. It just could happen. But you know what? I do like this to end a show. Derek, thank you very much for your thoughts. I would agree with you. Every year, some Longhorn fan ends up asking me right before that game kicks in Dallas, hey, so you're an Aggie. Who are you rooting for? And I always respond the same way. I'm rooting for you. I do not root for that team north of the Red River. Ever, ever, ever. Don't ever do that. Thank you, Derek, for that one. Always brings a smile to my face. And I know a lot of the fans' faces when you talk about OU sucking. All right, tomorrow we'll get into some more Texas stuff. Specifically, I'll focus in on receivers because I can't stop thinking about those Texas receivers when I think about this team. We'll get into that tomorrow. We'll do some absolute truth serum for you and talk about Sark and talk about the team and get into all that stuff. And we'll have a lot of fun on a Tuesday. And until tomorrow at noon, we appreciate you hanging out. Remember, Football with Friends. I'll give you one more reminder. Football with Friends at 6 o'clock tonight on Orange Bloods Live. It is fun as hell. You got to check it out. Until tomorrow at noon, everybody be safe out there. We are House Divided.